Okay, hello everybody. We are here for another episode of Visibility in Action, which is the second one of 2022, and if I can count, I think it's number 11 in total, although I probably can't count. It might be 10, it might be 12. I don't know. I am joined today by, writer, presenter, speaker, business owner, and among other things, and most importantly, my colleague at Solutions Driven, our Chief Diversity Officer, Salma el Wardany. Hello.
Reporting for duty. Hello.
I'm sure I missed several things off the list of your very long LinkedIn profile of, what you do, but I think I got the important ones.
I know, but LinkedIn is such a bore. Never read someone's LinkedIn profile.
Oh no, I'm obsessed. I spend most of my day on LinkedIn, so too much of my day.
Try to avoid it where possible.
I know, not enough likes on my posts. Moving on. Our subject for today is a little bit different. Previous guests, obviously, we've gone into this with a very kind of they've been doing something really interesting and we wanted to discover more about that. So Preston in the last episode talking about starting up the ERG and how that happened. Here, we want to talk about allyship with someone who, I think I'm qualified to give you the title. So there, you can have it. Ally, there you go. In your day job, you do a hell of a lot of good work promoting diversity and inclusion across all different kind of businesses, including our own. So I suppose there's 2 or 3 things I think we should talk about today, but we'll, chat broadly as we usually do. First off is the idea that, allyship is a verb. It's a thing you have to do, to paraphrase a song I can't remember the title of. So how does that manifest itself, I suppose, would be the first question. Like for you as someone who helps businesses across the whole area of diversity and inclusion, where do you begin? Because I think that's what a lot of people are scared by, particularly people outside of the LGBTQ community. Might not know much about it, have lots of questions, they're scared to ask them. Where do you begin? Which is a massive question to start with. So let's dive in.
Huge. I am ready to dive into the deep end.
Need some more coffee before you get on.
For real. I think a good place to start is reiterating exactly what you said, is that allyship is a verb. It is a doing word. So you can't say that you're an ally. You have to be an ally. You have to physically do something to show that you are an ally. So that doesn't mean just sitting around a boardroom table saying, I support women. I think women should have equal opportunities at our organization. That doesn't make you an ally. What makes you an ally is talking to the women in your organization and saying, do you feel supported? How can I further and progress your career? What is it that you need in your career to develop? How can you, what is it that you need to support your work life and your home life better? And it's then taking the things that those women tell you and putting them into practice by then going back to the boardroom and saying, okay, I spoke to X, Y, and Z. These are the challenges that they're facing. This is what they would like and what would help them and what would help support them and get the best out of them, not the most out of them, but the best out of them in their career here in this organization. And I think we should implement this into our process and our policy. That's allyship. So for example, in that very specific example, that would be a man going and being an ally towards women. And of course, you can transfer this to anything, to someone straight being an ally to the LGBTQ employees, someone who is not of color being an ally to people of color and Black people within organizations. And that's essentially what allyship is. It's doing something. And we are in a climate of diversity right now where there is a lot of talking. People love to talk about diversity. And they love to say that they're on board and that they are diverse. People don't like to do things as much. And so allyship is fundamentally a doing word. And it is the cornerstone, I believe, of all diverse efforts, policies, practices. Because the truth is, we're not going to create a diverse and inclusive world if people aren't being an allies. We can't do it without allyship, right? I can't get better equality for women in the workplace without all my male colleagues being on board and helping me do that. I can't create an equal world in workplaces for people of color without all the white people in those organizations helping and being part of that change instead of resisting it. So you cannot have diversity and inclusion and equity without allyship. Allyship is the cornerstone, the foundational point of diversity. So it is a huge question because there's 1,000 different ways you can do it. There's 1,000 different ways to start. But I think the beginning point to focus on is that allyship is a doing word, and allyship is pivotal to everything when it comes to diversity.
Yeah, I think you said it very, very well. We may as well stop there. That's all we need to know.
The end. Goodbye. It was lovely being here.
Fastest episode yet. No, you're right. And I think it's interesting actually seeing that from, this podcast is all about talking about amplifying LGBTQ plus voices. And very often, not always, but very often that is, it's an invisible diversity. We can cover some stereotypes and talk about how, sometimes it's very visible, but for the most part, many of us kind of slip beneath the radar and are as visible as we choose to make ourselves. And I think that makes allyship a little bit harder in many ways because you can work somewhere and not know who the LGBTQ plus community in your workplace is, whereas you might know, who are the people of colour, who are people with visible disabilities. You can make conscious decisions to try and better understand their, experiences. Whereas with that invisible community, it can be a little bit harder without, I suppose, putting yourself out there first and not putting it on them to do that.
Right. And it's not for people in the LGBTQ plus community to always do the work. It's not for the oppressed parties to always do the work. That's why we need allyship, right? That's why we need everyone else to be involved. And this goes back to having an inclusive environment, because if you have an inclusive culture in your workforce, then the people who have non-visible minority backgrounds feel like they can bring those backgrounds to the workforce. If your culture is inclusive, your LGBTQ plus staff aren't afraid to bring that part of themselves into work, which is their whole selves, right? They can't divvy parts of themselves up and, I'll just leave my sexuality at home for the day. It doesn't work like that, right? So it does go back to having that culture to make sure that you've got a culture, which is why inclusive culture is so important, that you've got a culture that all of your LGBTQ plus employees can be themselves fully and totally without any fear of repercussions in that environment. But I would say also it comes down to your hiring as well, and making sure that you're hiring diverse candidates. And that doesn't mean you're going to put an advert out saying, I'm looking for LGBTQ plus people to come and work in this organization. That's not what you do. But it's making sure that you are, if you do want a diverse set of people working in your organization, consult with those different groups so that you know what would be appealing, what challenges they're facing, and what would entice them to come and work in your organization. I'm never going to do a recruitment drive for LGBTQ plus people in my organization without talking to someone who is from that community. I'm straight. I don't know about your challenges in the way that you know about your challenges. I don't know about the things that would attract you to work in this organization in the way that people from that community will know. So I'm never going to do a hiring drive without consulting that community. And I think that's where a lot of people fall down as well, because they think, oh, I'm going to create this advert to get more diverse people working in the organization. And it's great. I think it's great. But if you're not from any of those communities that you are trying to attract, you're not the audience. So you thinking it's great is really quite irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to visibility and people, coming from minority backgrounds that you can't see when you walk into a room because you can't always see someone's sexuality like that, it's about your culture, making sure it's inclusive so that you've done your part of the bargain, right? You've made it inclusive. And now if they feel like they want to come forward and let you know that they're part of that community, then that's on them. That's up to them entirely. But you've held up your part. You've done your part of that equation. If you are hiring for diverse candidates, then making sure you're getting people from that community to inform those hiring campaigns is you doing your part. So I think when it comes to visibility in that way, we just have to always make sure we're holding up. The people with privilege have to make sure they're holding up their part of the bargain and they're doing their part to make it as safe and as inclusive and as welcoming as possible. And then people, if they want to say, hey, I'm gay, I'm queer, I'm bi, they can come and say that. But you have created all of the right environment for them to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And I think it starts with recognizing where that privilege lies, doesn't it? And we've talked about this in previous episodes, where it's almost seen as a bit of a dirty word, privilege, in some circles.
Oh, yeah.
There's the classic scenarios of accusing someone of saying something that's a little bit homophobic or a little bit racist or a little bit transphobic, and they lead into that, or you're calling them racist or homophobic or transphobic. No, just that sentence you said a minute ago. If you couldn't accept that, I go, oh, I didn't realise. Tell me why. That's understanding the privilege that you see things from. And you're right. I think that has to come first.
The P word is the C word. I'm convinced.
You might be right. But it's all interesting, I think, at the moment, because we're recording this at a time when, I said I'm obsessed with LinkedIn. I am. Anyone might be watching this clip on LinkedIn right now. Where
no shade towards LinkedIn. Okay, man. Listen, all my contacts
I'm
on
genuinely
LinkedIn.
obsessed.
I love you.
I don't know when I don't know when I gave up on the rest of social media. That's just where I spend my time now. But
really, that's so fascinating, because LinkedIn.
I know, I'm a terrible millennial.
I know, you really are. LinkedIn makes me die inside and feel aggressive about life. So
it does to me sometimes, and this is one of those examples, right? So we're talking at a time when we have a very global client base and a very global network that's solutions driven. So we see things from all over the world, and what I've seen a lot of on LinkedIn this last week is a lot of people talking about the bill in Florida, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. And so many people jumping into comments sections to tell people that this isn't Facebook, that's not for LinkedIn. And there's two things going on there to what you were saying, Salma. One of them is people are recognizing that you have to be able to bring your whole self to work to actually do your best work. But it's also that this is a platform where your name, your job title, your employer are all written there in front of the post for everybody to see. So from a hiring perspective, anyone in that company who might be trying to change and maybe suggest that those views aren't what they really want at their company, they struggle to hire a kind of diverse set of talent, because that's what's being put out there. And I just think it's a great example of why recognizing privilege and understanding why bringing your whole self to the workplace is so important before you're even starting to get into the idea of how do I be a good ally. Because if you've not done that first, the rest isn't going to follow.
If you can't recognize your privilege, then you don't know where you're going to be an ally. If I don't recognize that I've got light skin privilege, then how am I going to be an ally to people of color and people from the Black community specifically? I'm of color. I'm a brown woman, but I'm not Black. I can't then understand the struggles of exactly what it is to be Black in this world. So therefore I have light skin privilege. I have the privilege of the education that I've had. I've the privilege of the passport that I hold, even, that gets me into every country in the world, just about. Everyone has privilege. It's a sliding scale. Some people have more, some people have less, but we all have it across the board. And it is one of the key points of allyship, is recognizing where that privilege lies and then using it to be an ally to people who have less privilege than you. It really is that simple. We can often get really kind of entrenched in these discussions about diversity and about how we're going to do it, and the policies, and oh my God, it's so hard, and how the workforce going to take it. It is as simple as recognizing where your privilege lies and using it to be an ally to people who have less privilege. Like it really is that simple.
Yeah, the idea of done is better than perfect, I suppose, comes into play in many ways. Once you get started, you learn as you go, but start is the
you have to make a start. And everyone's out here terrified that they're going to get cancelled. And I find that quite incredulous, because my first thought is, you're really not that famous or that big that anyone's going to care about what you say on LinkedIn. But also, if that is the case, you're afraid that you might say something wrong. Well, you then have to say something wrong, and then you have to learn from it, because otherwise we're not learning. We're just sitting stagnant, and that's no good for anyone.
Exactly. Saying something wrong isn't necessarily the problem. It's the bit that happens next. If you say something wrong out of ignorance rather than malice, it's how you then go, oh, I didn't know that was wrong. Explain. If it comes 100%. From a place of maliciousness, then definitely let's jump on that. But ignorance isn't inherently wrong if someone is at least open to learning from it.
100%. The amount of wild stuff that has been said to me over the years, and yes, of course, there's a percentage of that it is just downright racist or sexist, misogynistic, whatever it might be. But the majority is people meaning well, good people meaning well, but fumbling in the dark. And when that does happen and they say something problematic, it's met with kindness. And I say, oh, well, let me explain this part and see what you think. And if you can see my point of view, why that isn't a great thing to hear for me. And most people, 99% will go, oh, I never thought about it like that. That never occurred to me, because that's not your experience. So why would it occur to you, right? It makes complete sense. I am a huge fan of everyone saying the wrong things. Please get out, say the wrong things, do the wrong things, make the mistakes that you need to make when you're trying to create a diverse organization, and we will all learn and we can move forward. If you're sitting afraid to say anything and afraid to do anything for fear of the repercussions, you're keeping us all in the same place.
It's a very, very good point. And I suppose you see it a lot for things like International Women's Day last week as we record, or, as we get towards Pride Month in June. I suppose you could call it this kind of performative inclusion or performative allyship that you see with, I don't know if you saw the Twitter bot.
Did I see the Twitter bot? Did it not make my whole year?
For anyone who doesn't know, companies that were posting about International Women's Day, whether it was just, a little ad campaign or, something, were then followed up with a bot that was retweeting them with their gender pay gap statistics if they'd been
gender
published.
Pay gap Twitter
and it
bot.
Just
incredible.
It was brilliant. It got a lot of tweets deleted by companies who were clearly doing what you were saying, Salma. They were not willing to act. But
yes, and this is what I always say: if you can't do something that is going to make change in your organization, don't say anything. It's really similar to that old adage: if you've got nothing nice to say nothing. If you have got nothing to do in your organization, if you're not going to make any tangible change, do not start going about online about Black Lives Matter or Happy International Women's Day or changing your logo to a rainbow every June. That is not helpful. Just shut up, stay quiet, and keep working on how you can make change, but don't put your head above the parapet if you've done nothing in your organization. Shout about the change that you've made when you've made that change. And I have always said that. I'm sick of the talking. You have to be doing something. And the gender pay gap Twitter bot just highlighted that so perfectly. Everyone kind of going, oh my God, Happy International Women's Day. We support women in our organization by doing X, Y, Z. And then the gender pay gap Twitter bot would then say, there is a 38% gender pay gap in this organization. And you just look ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was the aim. It was brilliant. And I think...
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that performative allyship is particularly, I think, grating on those of us in the LGBT community. Can't speak LGBTQ community every time we roll around to June, because everything has a rainbow on it. Absolutely everything does, and it becomes difficult to read the genuine allyship from the "please give us your money," because and also ultimately that's what it's doing.
It 100% is. I have so many of my friends from that community have said corporations have ruined Pride for them. They've absolutely taken over and co-opted Pride into consumerist, let's sell more things to the gay community in this 1 month, right? I honestly can't bear it. And it also then skews the public opinion, and people think, well, every single brand that I know has a rainbow on it in June, so therefore we've arrived. The gay community are fine. They don't need any more help. Yeah, we've got equality. And that's such a dangerous notion to exist in, because we don't. And then it makes people lax, and it makes people go, oh, I can take my foot off the pedal. And actually, this is the moment where you do need to push harder than ever. And you need to make sure that it pushes, because at some level, when you're looking for diverse change, what you get is you have an awareness piece, and then you have a performative piece, and then you have tangible change. And it's like you have to push through that performative piece. Some people manage to avoid it and skip it and go straight to tangible change, which is amazing, but not many do. Some people do just hit at performative allyship or performative diversity, and then eventually get through to the next stage. That's just the stage some people have to go through, right? So it's really dangerous, because now's the time where you have to kind of double down, but people can go, oh, well, look, Pret that I walk past every day, they changed their logo to a rainbow, which they do. So everyone who is in the LGBTQ plus community, they're fine.
Yeah, all good.
And that's just not true.
Yeah, and you're right to a degree there. I think that you have to go through that stage because at least it's having a conversation, it's talking about a subject, and you have to normalise that before, you can start doing things, about it. But I suppose you have to recognise that you've kind of stopped at that stage and start pushing forward. It's not to say that the brands getting involved aren't doing things, but it's, to me, almost more respectable for an employer to go, okay, we're not where we want to be from a diversity perspective, whether it's about the LGBTQ community, whether it's about, their gender balance, whether it's about the kind of ethnic makeup of their employees, anything like that, is for them to go, we're not there. We've recognised that we're talking to these people. Those are the suggestions. This is what we'll do. That's almost, to me, more respectable than a company going, and changing all their logos, because you don't actually get to see what's going on behind the scenes. Almost there isn't an element of accepting things aren't perfect.
Right.
Almost just going, oh yeah, they are. Please don't ask us questions.
I know, right? And I think so many people from the LGBTQ plus community could never care less if they never see another rainbow on Pret's logo again. What they would like to see is Pret donate X amount of their X pennies from each coffee that month, in the month of June, to charities that help people from the LGBTQ plus background. That would probably be better, because that's a corporation putting its money where its mouth is, right? Yeah. Or they probably couldn't care less if Lloyd's TSB released an advert about Pride in the month of Pride, and actually instead of, if Lloyd's TSB promoted more people from the LGBTQ plus community in their ranks, right, to senior management or to C-suite. That people want to see change. People are tired of companies grandstanding and going, yes, I'm so good because we put a rainbow up. I can't bear it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And without wanting to get into what is dangerous territory, I think that's almost driving this whole woke and cancel culture kind of conversation. It's companies grandstanding. It's not individuals having opinions.
No.
It's escalating a problem that never really existed. But it's putting it out there in kind of mainstream media and making people think that is what's happening.
Right.
Which I think is actually preventing people from being good allies and actually doing something. Because it goes back to what you said before, because of fear of, being attacked, being cancelled, which there's no such thing as, by the way, it's just being held accountable. But
and also for a lot of people, it's just more press, Everyone sits here and goes, we've cancelled J.K. Rowling. No, we haven't. Harry Potter remains in the bestseller list. This many years after it was published. We haven't cancelled anything. The notion that we can cancel someone like that is ridiculous.
No, if they can go on to national mainstream media and talk about how they've been cancelled, there's a painful irony in that.
Truly. But anyway, let's not get into that rabbit hole.
Yes, that's rant territory. Valid, but maybe
we need 45 podcasts for it. It will not suffice in this podcast alone.
Let's just stop talking about it.
Done.
Move on. So yeah, what we've said is it's a doing word. It's it's a label you don't get to give yourself. And I suppose hinted at some of the ways you can get started. And I think, this in your role as Chief Diversity Officer, I'm sure all too well, that is the biggest challenge, is getting people started. People talk around in circles about the idea of, making their company more diverse, being more inclusive, or just being allies as individuals. But it's then actually taking the next step of how to do that. So from a company perspective, kind of talked about it, it's talk to communities, let's actually, understand their experiences better. From an individual point of view, though, I think that's where it gets a little bit more difficult, because people might be, watching or listening to us talk and going, yeah, but I don't have a seat at that table. I don't get to make those decisions. But as an individual, you are able to, I suppose, help in some ways where you feel safe to. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that in terms of how, as an individual, someone can, take strides to becoming an ally or being given the title, let's say?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that you can't give yourself the title. I have a pin badge, a little metal pin badge. It's a rainbow, and on it says ally, and I've put that badge is on my like on one of my backpacks, um, which technically is me giving myself that label, isn't it? I don't know if I'm now allowed to wear that badge. I will tell you the story behind the badge, which may influence your opinion on whether I'm allowed to wear this badge or not. But I a few years ago, my friends were getting married in Australia, and they both waited until Australia changed its marriage laws, and they both campaigned so that they could marry each other, two women, and they could have flown somewhere else and got married, but they want to get married in their country, and they'd really fought and campaigned, and I think we all saw it in the news when Australia did change their marriage laws, and they could get married. And somewhere along the way, they asked me to marry them. And so I did my course and became a celebrant, and then flew to Australia to marry them. And the very seed that was at the heart of this was that Australians historically haven't been very nice to people of colour, and definitely not to the Muslim community. And also the Muslim community globally is not very nice to people from the LGBTQ plus community, and they haven't been very nice about them, to them, or inclusive at all. And so we both kind of, what was at the very heart of it was, well, actually, wouldn't it be nice if a Muslim brown woman married you as a sign of allyship, and of actually, this is how we can all live together, even though I'm straight. Actually, as a brown Muslim straight woman, I can go to Australia, take this course, and marry two of my friends who are two women. And either side of our communities have never really gone or liked each other, but what a beautiful sign of allyship and of tolerance, and of how the world could work if we could all just get over ourselves for a minute. And I did that, and they, part of their wedding favors at all of their placemats, they had these little pin badges, and they were either a rainbow or a rainbow with ally on it. So if you were gay, you could take the rainbow if you wanted it, but if you weren't, you could then take a badge still and have ally. So that's why I have that badge.
I think that counts as being given the title. I think that counts.
I'll take it. But then that does lead me to answer your question, which is, allyship happens in a myriad of different ways, and it's tiny, and it's so tiny you don't even think of it, and it's huge and it's massive. So me becoming a celebrant and flying to Australia to marry two lesbians is a big act of allyship. And then I wrote a column about it. I wrote an article about it for Stylist magazine, and it was published in Stylist, so that it was a really visible act of allyship. And I wanted other Muslims to read it and go, oh, we don't have to be prejudiced against this community. Even though I'm not part of it, we could just get over ourselves, right? So there's those massive acts. And when it comes to the workforce as well, and allyship is in the workforce, it's on your commute home, it's with your friendship circles, it's in your family. So allyship is every day, every space, every minute, every hour. It's not something that just happens in the confines of your office. So there's all those big acts. And then in terms of your organization, when you're at work, there's big acts of allyship. For example, if you're in a position of power or authority at work, and even if you're not management, by the way, if you are not management but you are in a job, you have expertise and knowledge to share. So who are you going to share it with? Are you going to sit on it and keep it to yourself, or are you going to mentor somebody from a disadvantaged background, and are you going to share that information? That's another big act of allyship. You could, for example, let's say you're a middle class guy working, you're not in senior management, you're not in the C-suite, but you're just doing your work. You could absolutely mentor a young working class lad who's in sixth form trying to decide what he wants to do with his life. 100%. If you're on the C-suite, you can mentor someone from a disadvantaged background. These are all really big acts of allyship that you can do. You can go to the, if you're a man, you can go to the women in your office and say, hey, how can I be a better ally to you? What can I do to support you in the workforce? You can ask those questions. If you're someone who is able-bodied, go to the people in your organization who are from the disabled community and ask them how you can be a better ally, how you can fight for them. Hey, do you need me to campaign to management? Even if I'm not on the management team, do you need me to campaign to management for you about getting better access, or about changing your working routine? Because lots of people have disabilities that are non-visible. So what can we do to change your working hours to help accommodate your disability that you have? You don't have to be on the management to campaign to management. You don't have to be on the C-suite to send that email to say, hi, I think we should do this because some of my colleagues are finding things hard because of their disabilities that they have. How can we be better? How can we help them better? You can fight that fight, right? So there's all these really big acts that you can do. And of course, a really fundamental act of allyship as well is just doing your own research. If you look at the trans community and you go, I don't really get it, like I don't get what they're upset about or why there's so many conversations about trans rights right now, then go and do the reading, right? You going to get a book and reading a book about a story to do with a trans person, even if it's fiction, that's you being an ally, because you are actively trying to find out more information and educate yourself about that community, right? So you've got all these big acts of allyship that you can do in the workforce or in your day or in your life. You've got like moderate acts where you can go and you can read and you can educate yourself and you can listen to podcasts such as this one, and you can find out more information for yourself. But there's also these really tiny acts of allyship that just happen in the everyday that are so important. So for example, one of the things that always just got on my nerves was that I was always the representative in the office to stand up and say, that comment is out of line to the men in the office, that's sexist. Or, you know, I remember sitting there once working and one of the guys in sales saying, oh, can we make sure our next hire is a fit woman because there's too many men around right now? And then I had to be the person as the woman standing up going, that's not appropriate to say that at all. And then I had to call that person out. And then obviously the men roll their eyes and he's, oh, she's always going on about it. Why did I stand up and say to that man, that's not an appropriate comment? Why didn't any number of the men around me, who are all good guys, let's not forget, why didn't any number of those men stand up and say, yo, or even take that person and say, can I have a word privately? And then say, that's really not appropriate at all. You should not be saying that. It's not up to the women to do it. So there's tiny things that happen like that. And that's all those tiny little microaggressions that happen against race and ability and gender and color and sexuality. You can be the person that says something privately. I'm not saying you have to get up and make a scene in the office. If you're not comfortable, then don't. You can send an email. You can have a conversation in private. You can say, hey, it just has to be confrontational. Hey, I think some people might have been uncomfortable by that comment that you made earlier. I'm sure you didn't mean anything bad by it. I'm not saying anything, but perhaps maybe we could cut those comments out. You know, they're tiny acts of allyship that you can do, you know. And it's thinking about what you have and what other people don't have. If you're in a meeting, look around and see who's talking. If it's always white men that are talking and you're a white man, stop the conversation and say, actually, we haven't heard from this woman of color who's sitting in the meeting who hasn't had a chance to say anything. You do the work of bringing that person into the conversation, right? See what's happening around you. Look at the power that you have in that instance and then pass it along. So and a really tiny thing is that whenever I'm on the tube, I live in London, and I'm on the tube, if there is a black woman on the same carriage as me, I will always give up my seat to her. Even if she is younger than me or my age, because the idea is that we give up our seats to elderly, right? So, but even if she's my age, I will give up my seat to a black woman because I know that her life, her everyday, the looks that she gets, the snide comments, the microaggressions, the things that she has to deal with on a bigger basis as well, like when she tries to get healthcare or tries to see the doctor and the GP receptionist as being a bit of a bitch or whatever it might be. She deals with 1,001 more microaggressions than I deal with in a single day. That I know to be true. So me giving up my seat is not going to change the world. It's not going to change anything, really. It's not going to change government policy. It's not going to change her ability to access healthcare when the medical system is rigged against her. But it makes her day a little bit softer, a tiny bit softer. It's just a tiny, tiny act of allyship. And allyship really is, how can I make your day better? How can I take that fight off you? How can I take that email that you need to send about the person who said something inappropriate to you? Let me send that email instead. Let me take that fight off you. Have my chair. How can I make people's days softer? So allyship is huge acts, it's middle acts, it's tiny, tiny acts. And I find like the tiny acts of allyship the most beautiful and the most helpful. You know, I remember walking late at night, someone in a car was following me and a guy was trying to get my attention and it was not a good situation. And generally, when men holler at women in the street, other men ignore it. That's the precedent. That's the general rule. And this was the only time this happened, by the way. A guy was walking in the opposite direction. He obviously saw what was happening. And as we were going to pass, he turned around and said, shall I walk with you just to where you're going to stop this person following you? And I said, yes, that'd be great. Please just walk with me because I'm a bit scared. And the minute a man is walking with me, the car drove away and left me, and he walked me to the tube station. That was an act of allyship that I just appreciate so much. It's those tiny things. Don't always think about allyship as this massive thing that you've got to crack.
But they add up. They really do. And I think some of that comes top down as well from, good training in the workplace as well. I mean, I think a couple of weeks ago I went to the first comedy show I'd been to since the start of COVID. And I always get nervous is maybe too strong a word, but it's always a hassle for me getting through the security because, I'm diabetic, I have a bag full of needles, I have a sensor on my arm that goes off when they scan you. Yes. And it's always a hassle. And just going through that and the person that was, checking my bag and stuff, just without me saying anything, noticed the needles in my bag. I went, oh, do you wear a scanner just so I know not to scan that arm while I'm, waving you down before you get in? Just little things like that. Instantly, I was relaxed because I'm like, but one or two in every 100 people that walk through those doors will be wearing one of these statistically. But it's the first time I've ever had somebody at security at the front of a venue like that acknowledge, rather than it seem like an extra bit of hassle because I'm not just someone with a bag full of, snacks and a wallet. It makes all those tiny little things, but absolutely, it made it start on an easy note. And I think things like that add up. And particularly and that was probably due to good training. I mean, it might just have been a very nice person, but I'm assuming that came from, you're going to see thousands of people coming through the doors today. Many will have, conditions, illnesses that you're going to have to, deal with as they get to the door. Things like that. And it applies across everybody. Like you said, privilege is a sliding scale. So anyone further down that scale than you, these tiny little acts can seem small to you, but actually be quite big to that individual. And that's what allyship, I suppose, is at the end of the day.
It is. Those acts are massive. I think putting your pronouns at the bottom of your email signature is an act of allyship. Me putting she, her on my email signature lets people know that I'm a safe space if you want to come and say, hey, my pronouns are different to what I physically appear. It doesn't make any difference to me. Yeah, I'm she, her. I look like a woman. I look like a very conventional idea of what society regards womanhood to be. No one's probably going to come to me and say, hey, I just need to check, are you they, them? People probably look at me and go, yeah, she's a she, right? Mm-hmm. It's not for me. It's a tiny act of allyship that I'm doing for somebody else, right? And that's all it is. These tiny acts. Think of them as acts of kindness. It is. That's all it is when it boils down to it. It is being kind.
Yeah, completely.
Even when you don't understand, even when you're not from that community, even when you're not sure why people in that community are doing those things or getting upset about that, it's being kind and having empathy towards other people. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sums it up. It's a great note to end on. So yeah, thank you so much, Salma, for your time. I think it's been a good discussion that could have got a lot more heated if we'd taken it in directions we avoided.
Let's do that on the follow-up podcast.
Yeah, let's do the
or the uncut version.
The unedited, the uncut version. But yeah, just before we finish up, if people want to come and find you, because you might not love LinkedIn all that much, but you're more present elsewhere. So where's?
I am on it.
I keep
if you
pushing
want to
that
message
button.
me on LinkedIn, okay, you can. I'm just not promising that I will get back to you immediately, and I do think LinkedIn is where my soul goes to die. So, but whatever. But I'm on.
I don't know what that says about me, to be honest.
that you're a better man than I am. That's what it says. That you've got a better soul than I have.
It's Twitter that does that to me.
You see, you can find me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on all the socials, and of course, you can email me. If you want to access me there, there's email addresses on LinkedIn, or of course you can email at Solutions Driven, whatever you like. I am a millennial. I am emotionally attached to my phone in a way that is unhealthy. So I am always available.
Better millennial than me, clearly.
If you cover LinkedIn and I cover the rest, we're perfect.
We're good. So all good. I stopped caring about social media probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't get back into it at all.
You're on the right
No,
track.
Facebook is there to show me all the things that people I went to school with are doing that I'm not.
God.
Twitter is there to show me all the things that are going to make me angry. LinkedIn so far for me is just having nice friendly conversations. So
really, that's so interesting because LinkedIn is absolutely the Facebook of the business world.
I'm a white man that people think is straight though, so
that's
true.
You
probably where that becomes easier.
Every time I say anything on LinkedIn, which is generally something people agree with, all the white men feel like they need to dress me down. And that's tiring. Every time I say, hey, maybe we should do this for International Women's Day, and all the white men go, well, it's preposterous and it's not professional.
Yeah, or when's International Men's Day?
Yeah, oh God. And we all know the answer to that, don't we?
Yes, it is a thing. So before you ask that question again, next March, Google it.
No. Or just, it's every day. It's 360.
That too. That's also very true.
No. Thank you for having me.
We're getting onto rants again.
Delighted. Let's do a rant podcast.
Maybe I should start that as well. I should do the, let's talk about real issues and then let's do a second. Let's just rant about stuff for half an hour.
Yeah, and you've got or maybe just invite guests on. They've got 5 minutes to rant about one specific thing. I'd like to rant about LinkedIn. Let me know when you start it up and I'll be your fifth guest.
You might be onto something there.
A rant.
I'll do it on LinkedIn Live just for that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's been great. And I'm sure people will come and find you if they wish.
Over and out.